Sarah's been working for your sales department for nearly 5 years. She's a very valuable member of the team, and today you're going to make a personnel decision about her career, and you don't want to screw it up. So what can we use as resources to help us make a decision? Since Sarah's work environment has changed over the past 10 months, she's not as productive as she used to be, and that's become a real quandary for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the U.S. Department of Labor's website. It's called the onetonline.org, or the Occupational Network Online. There's very important and reliable information that we can capture regarding Sarah that will help us make our personnel decision. And this is a multi-million-dollar decision because she has established great relationships with clients over the years. She knows all the products, the systems. She's been just really a valuable person. And so the slump right now in her sales has got us scratching our heads. We don't know why. So we're going to look at her abilities, her interests, and her work styles. Now, the government starts out with measuring different types of abilities, and the one that we're interested in is called cognitive abilities. Now, this is quite a rich area of research for the government, and there are 21 different dimensions. We don't have time right now to go into all of them and to discuss which ones are most related to being a sales representative, but just to let you know that for more information, you can go into the ONET website and look at these abilities and how they're described. The next aspect that we'll look at, or dimension of her personality, are her interests. And these 6 interests have been studied by the US government since the mid-1980s. They were devised and created by Dr. John Holland. So realistic interest has to do more with working with machinery and tools. It's not that much of a sales-related occupational interest. Investigative has to do with technical interest, how things work. Depending upon how scientific or technical your products are, this scale would be more or less impactful for successful sales. And then the artistic or creative interest, well, we have marketing teams typically, and the sales team doesn't create marketing materials. Social is very important for someone becoming a manager, to be concerned about the welfare of others. But it also is important in some sales roles, but not all of them. Now, across the board, the enterprising interest, which talks about persuading people and presenting plans, is a very typical and important occupational interest for sales roles. The conventional interest has to do with organizing data and materials. It is important for sales roles because there are a lot of reports that need to be filed. The CRM software needs to be updated. The manager needs to know what's going on in the salesperson's pipeline. So these are the 6 interests that we need to measure. Last of all, we go down to what we call work styles. And these work styles are all related. These are personality traits that are quite stable. When someone reaches adulthood, so let's say after high school, their personality traits are quite well crystallized and stable. So not all of these work styles are necessary to measure for sales roles. So how do we make the jump in understanding what is important to measure, what's relatively stable? And when we measure these, we do it with instruments that were designed to standardized data. The industry's over 100 years old, and in the last 25, 30 years, many companies, 90% of the Fortune 500, have used instruments to measure work styles, interests, and abilities. They do so because if someone is measured today with an instrument and in 3 months, the results are almost the same. In fact, between half of the time and 75% of the time, people act in a similar way. And that's why when we make personnel decisions, we have to rely on this type of data, which is reliable and that we can really leverage in a responsible way. So what we've done is, and many companies will pick their own psychometric tool, their own assessment. We've picked an assessment that measures one ability. It's very simple. There are 24 questions, and it measures reasoning ability, which is a measure of expected learning, reasoning, and problem-solving potential. Very necessary for sales roles. People on the lower side need more repetition in learning their craft. People on the higher side are quick to learn and more readily adapt. This is on a 9-unit scale. And then we go into the work styles. So the work styles are these, again, personality traits that can be modified through coaching. So these are the dimensions where the influence of the sales manager helping the sales rep overcome a slump in sales is possible and valuable. Manageability is a tendency to follow policies, to accept supervision and work within the rules. People on the lower side, and these tend to be managers, they prefer individual freedom and they're cautious with authority because they are the authority and they create the policies and procedures. Whereas more lower level sales jobs, entry level sales jobs, most sales rep jobs are higher on manageability, especially in different industries that are highly regulated, where people need to be compliant, respectful, and agreeable. Competitiveness is a tendency to work toward goals and to try to exceed others' performance. So people on the lower side are more accommodating, more easygoing and cooperative. If there's a longer sales cycle, then people tend to be lower in competitiveness. As this type of sales style is more transactional, and after meeting your prospect, your target, you're going to try to sell them a product or a service, you need to be higher in competitiveness. Then people contact, the tendency to be outgoing, people-oriented, and to participate with others. On the lower side, people are more reserved. They'll shut their door more. They avoid small talk. So more managers can be moderate and low in people contact. People who are generating sales opportunities and going out and closing business tend to be higher in people contact. They're outgoing and people-oriented. The sense of urgency is the tendency to display stamina and an eagerness for immediate results. Again, the sales cycle here is important. People on the lower side are more relaxed, patient, and focused. They might be better at more complex sales cycles. They'll follow the methodology and they won't make as many errors. People on the higher side are going to be more eager, energetic, but then they'll also be impatient. So that's the downside of being too high on sense of urgency. Attitude is a tendency to have a positive or optimistic outlook regarding people and outcomes. People on the lower end are more skeptical and often vigilant. They'll ask more questions. They'll take more of a diagnostic approach, and they won't believe everything that they're told by their prospects. People on the higher side are more trusting and optimistic. So if they're in like a telemarketing position, they've got thick skin and rejection will roll off their back like water off a duck. If you're too high in attitude, you might be gullible and naive, and that doesn't work at all either. So we're not looking for extremes. And then the last personality trait that is important to know and which is predictive of sales for a lot of positions is take charge. Take charge, the tendency to strive for control of people, situations, and to lead more than follow. So when we look at this, we might think, well, will Sarah be a good candidate for a management position or not? People who are on the lower side, they tend to be more followers. People on the higher side are more comfortable with leading others. Now, we're not going to talk about the interests right now, but they are sales and business, people service, which would be important for managerial roles, financial, all of those reports that our salespeople need to submit, technical, which has to do with understanding why something works the way it does, and mechanical, if you're in an industry that's selling some type of apparatus. I once looked at salespeople and those that were flourishing in an audiology company. They needed to have mechanical interests, but there are many sales roles that don't. And then finally, creative. This would have to be with the necessity to be imaginative, original, and artistic. All right, so what we do is we look at someone's results, Sarah's results, on the ability scale, the thinking, the cognitive ability scale, and then on the 6 behavioral traits. And they're on a scale from 1 to 9. Once we capture her results on the assessment, then we're able to score her to all of the job patterns that the ONET provides on onetonline.org. So this is wonderful because that overall job match can show us, and now if we're going to look at sales positions, we'll see that Sarah is a decent candidate for a sales manager position. But if we sort this now from the highest to the lowest, actually she is a sales representative, and she's got a 1 point higher overall job match for being a technical sales rep. And that is what she's doing right now. So we're going to make the decision tentatively to continue to coach her in her current position, because she looks like she's a very solid match for a sales representative in technical product sales. Now, there are other types of sales positions where, she could also be successful at. And then we also notice some other sales positions where she would struggle to perform well. So matching to all of the sales models and other positions within your company, you could see where she fits. But once we've done this, now we're going to drill down, and we've made the decision to keep her in her position. And so we're going to leverage what we call advanced data mining models. These are different tools that data scientists have with statistics to be able to understand the complex relationships between those personality traits, those 6 that we measure, as well as the ability. And we add in the 6 occupational interests. So there are 13 different dimensions that we analyze. And by analyze, I mean we see which of them are predictive of your metrics of interest. So here's an example of a statistical model that we built for a sales team. And we looked at all of the results for a group of salespeople. And to do this, we need to have 32 or more salespeople in a team. We typically go with a larger mid to large size companies that have a good number of salespeople in a single role. It could be across the country. And we had to predict their annual gross revenue. So using our advanced analytics, and these are regression trees with a certain type of sampling which overcomes a lot of different obstacles to using smaller samples, we are able to predict for this company gross revenue annually within $7,500. That's how accurate this is. We're predicting and explaining 98% of the variability in this metric. So our error is very, very small. And we put Sarah's results in this calculator. There are 2 personality traits that are important for predicting, and that's out of the 6. We found the 2 that are most important for predicting gross revenue, and 3 of the 6 occupational interests in predicting. So we've put Sarah's results in here, and now we've found out that it's important for her not to be in a situation where there's a lack of policies and procedures. And this has happened in the past 9 to 10 months because she's not working in an office right now. She's working at home. She's working remotely. And so it's really thrown her for a loop because we've not had this situation before. And normally when she's back in the office, look at that performance, right? But now she's in a situation where things are happening that she doesn't know how to address. The methods and the policies and procedures have not been changed sufficiently. And so this might be a reason why she's struggling. Then we go down to another model that we've built, and this model predicts performance over several key performance indicators. One of them, of course, is that gross annual revenue, but we have a whole group of key performance indicators, and across them, we are predicting general performance percentile. So she is close to the 3rd quartile, which is quite high. Normally she is. But we notice that she's lower in competitiveness, and we have been coaching her because of a success pattern that we have to be more competitive. Her score is 2 units lower than where our performance model is for this scale. And so we have been coaching her to be more competitive, to be more goal-oriented, and let's see if that has been a good decision. And we see her that she's a 3, and we've been coaching her to be a 5. Well, actually, if we do that now that we have our model, look what happens. She goes from being close to the 3rd quartile down to almost 0. To 6%. She goes down to the bottom of the 1st quartile. And so it's definitely been a mistake on our part to expect her to perform the same and greater, putting her in a situation where we haven't really determined the right way to do things and to give her enough resources. And so her annual gross revenue has cratered in these last 9 to 10 months. When we bring her back to the office, she should be able to bounce back. And we're not going to encourage her to increase her level of competitiveness, those behaviors, because now we know that it's a strength for her to have lower competitiveness. So thanks for watching this video. This is Chris with Kunze Analytics. We are predicting performance through analytics, helping you decide with data, and we're providing you with new advanced people analytics. Our motto is, pierce the future.